fans are demanding, and they want to win. And we get that. We want to win. I think our view, though, was that this is a long-term project, and we're committed to the long term, and we very much believe that we're going to figure it out.
This is not the same Chelsea of last season. Everyone thinks Chelsea are doing it again. Another summer, another manager, another pile of expensive young players arriving at Stamford Bridge.
One thing we do know is that they have recruited badly, because there are players that they recruited 2 years ago that they're trying to get rid of. So they have recruited badly.
Chelsea have just got to stop buying players, and players have got to stop signing for Chelsea. I don't know why, if I was a player, I would look at that Chelsea project and think, why would you sign? The only reason why you would sign is because someone might say, your agent might say, we're getting a 7-year deal on big money. That's guaranteed money for 7 years.
And after everything that has happened under this ownership, you can understand why. Last season, Chelsea went from dreaming about Champions League football to watching their season completely fall apart. Their manager walked away, their replacement lasted just months, the dressing room fractured, the red cards piled up, the goals disappeared, and a team that had looked ready to move forward suddenly found itself going backwards.
Chelsea have sacked their head coach Liam Rosenior after just over 100 days in charge, so just over 100 days into a 6.5-year contract. What a mess.
So when Chelsea appointed another manager and started spending again, the reaction was predictable. Here we go again.
With all due respect to the other candidates, that Xabi Alonso is the man with the best CV, not just as a player, but also as a manager.
Except this time, something is different. Xabi Alonso hasn't inherited the same Chelsea, and more importantly, Chelsea may finally have hired a manager whose football explains exactly why they are signing the players they are signing. The wing-backs, the runners, the ball carriers, the midfield structure, even the extraordinary move for Morgan Rogers. Individually, these deals look like Chelsea doing what Chelsea always do. But put them together, and a completely different picture begins to appear. Because this may no longer be a collection of talent waiting for someone to figure it out. It may be the beginning of an actual team. So the real question is, have Chelsea finally stopped rebuilding their squad and started building an identity? To understand why Chelsea could be so different this season, you first have to understand how badly last season went wrong. Because the strange thing about Chelsea's collapse is that it wasn't caused by a lack of talent. This was still a squad containing Cole Palmer, Moisés Caicedo, Enzo Fernández, Reece James, João Pedro, Estevao, players capable of producing moments that most Premier League teams would happily build around. And there were moments when Chelsea looked genuinely dangerous. They beat Tottenham home and away. They produced huge performances against major opponents. Caicedo remained one of the most dependable players in their midfield. Reece James finally put together a season in which his body allowed him to play regularly again. The pieces were there, but the picture never stayed together. That is the contradiction at the heart of modern Chelsea. They have spent years acquiring talent, yet talent was never really the biggest problem. It was connecting it. Connecting the recruitment to the manager to the players to the system, and the system to a clear idea of what Chelsea were actually supposed to become. Last season exposed that problem brutally. This season may tell us whether Xabi Alonso can finally solve it. Because Chelsea haven't simply changed their manager, they may be changing the way the entire team makes sense. And that starts with the myth surrounding last season. The easiest explanation for Chelsea's problems is that the players simply weren't good enough. Young squad, too many mistakes, too much money spent on potential, not enough leaders. And when Chelsea's season collapsed, that explanation became even easier to believe. Think about that. A team with this much attacking talent, 5 league defeats, 0 goals. At the same time, discipline became another symptom of something deeper. Red cards, dissent, frustration, players looking disconnected, questions about authority, questions about the dressing room, questions about whether everyone still believed in the same project. This wasn't simply bad form, it was a team losing its centre, and that distinction matters, because when a striker misses chances, you can buy another striker. When a defender makes mistakes, you can buy another defender. But what do you buy when nobody seems completely sure what the team is anymore? Chelsea had already tried spending their way out of uncertainty. It hadn't worked, and by the end of the season, even talented players were beginning to look worse inside the confusion. Chelsea became a club permanently under construction, and eventually that became their identity. Not possession, not pressing, not counter-attacking. Construction, always preparing for the team they might become tomorrow, and never completely sure what they were today. That is why Xabi Alonso's arrival matters, not because he is another fashionable coach, not because he won trophies elsewhere, and not because Chelsea suddenly have better players. It matters because for perhaps the first time in this version of Chelsea, you can look at the manager, then look at the squad being built around him, and see the same idea. And that is where this story changes.
The biggest difference between this Chelsea and last season's Chelsea might not be visible on a team sheet. It is the relationship between space and personnel. Xabi Alonso's best teams have never depended on simply putting 11 talented players onto the pitch. His football is about creating advantages. Where can the opponent be pulled? Where does the extra man appear? Who provides the width? Who attacks the space that opens? And who controls the game when possession is lost? That is why the signing of Marco Palestrina is so interesting. On paper, he's another young player arriving at Chelsea. Look at the football and the logic becomes clearer. Palestrina is not just a traditional fullback, he carries the ball, he attacks space, he beats players, he has the physical capacity to repeatedly travel up and down the pitch. During the 2025-26 Serie A season, no defender across Europe's top 5 leagues completed more dribbles. That is not a random statistic. It tells you what Chelsea may be trying to create. Width that can attack, width that can progress the ball, width that forces defenders backwards. Then there is Giovanni Quenda, another player comfortable in advanced wide areas, another player capable of operating as a wing-back, another player whose profile becomes more interesting when you stop thinking of positions as fixed labels. And that is one of the key ideas in Alonso's football. A defender does not always remain a defender. A wing-back can become an attacker. A midfielder can drop into the defensive line. A forward can occupy the half space while someone else stretches the pitch. The formation you see before kickoff is not necessarily the formation you see when Chelsea have the ball. That changes everything for players like Cole Palmer, because Palmer's greatest gift isn't simply that he can score, it is that he sees spaces before they fully exist. But last season, opponents increasingly understood the problem. Stop Palmer, crowd his zone, make Chelsea find another answer. That is where someone like Morgan Rogers becomes fascinating. At first, the fit almost looks uncomfortable. Rogers likes operating centrally, Palmer likes operating centrally. Both can play as a number 10, both want influence between the lines. So why would Chelsea commit a £117 million British record fee to another player who appears to want the same spaces? Because perhaps Alonso doesn't see the same player twice. Perhaps he sees two different weapons. Palmer manipulates space, Rogers destroys it. Palmer receives and sees the pass. Rogers receives and carries the defender with him. One creates uncertainty through intelligence, the other creates panic through power. Now add wingbacks providing width, add Caicedo controlling transitions, add Enzo progressing the ball, add Estevão's unpredictability. Suddenly, Chelsea are no longer asking Palmer to solve every attacking problem. They are creating different problems around him. And that is the truth behind this rebuild.
Alonso still has to manage a huge squad. He still has to establish authority at a club that has burned through managers. He still has to balance young players who all expect opportunities, and he must do it without European football after Chelsea finished outside the qualification places. There's also something else: expectations. Last season, chaos offered excuses. This season, those excuses become harder to find. Chelsea have hired one of the most highly regarded coaches of his generation. They're reshaping the squad. They're spending heavily again. And Alonso himself has spoken about creating the right culture and building towards sustained success, which means Chelsea are approaching a dangerous point in their project. Eventually, potential has to become achievement. Eventually, the youngest squad becomes experienced. Eventually, tomorrow arrives. And for Chelsea, that moment may be now.
The Chelsea walking into this new season is facing a completely different test. Last year was about surviving the chaos. This year is about proving they have finally learned from it. Because after billions spent, hundreds of players linked, managers hired and managers gone, Chelsea no longer need another rebuild. They need an identity. And for the first time in a long time, they might actually have one.